Okay, wonderful. Welcome. First of all, it's Ninos. I wanted to make sure that was clear. So it's Ninos Malek. My mom was from Ecuador, South America, so people think it's Ninos. But my father was Assyrian, ancient Middle Eastern culture, no Assyria any longer. But my father was from Iran, but Ninos is an Assyrian name. So little trivia there. FT has been a part of my life since this July. It'll be 25 years. I went to the 1 week seminar, the Economics for Leaders. If you have not done that, highly encourage you to look into that. And I also did their online program when I was a new teacher. I've been teaching since 1998, so long time. I started off at the high school level in San Jose, and then the year later, I was teaching at both San Jose State, the University, and De Anza College, which is right down the street from Apple, during the evenings and on Saturdays. So three jobs simultaneously. Stopped for a bit, went back to school for my PhD program in Virginia, and then came back, and I'm now a full-time professor at De Anza College and a lecturer in the economics department at San Jose State. So I want to say thank you for what you do. I know most of you, if not all of you, teach economics. Uh, I think it's the greatest subject there is. I tell my students, your other professors will tell you that, but I'm right because economics is the study of people making choices, and we make choices every day. This is not going to be a technical presentation, no, math or game theory, anything like that. So whether, excuse me, you're teaching middle school, high school, or even principals, I'm hoping each of you gets something out of this. Some of you are new teachers to economics, some of you are seasoned teachers. So I do my best to make sure everyone at least gets something. Concepts will be taught. For some of you, it'll be review. For some, it might be a tiny little bit of a boot camp. And I'm hoping the examples through dating and relationships will be helpful in all of your classes. Of course, depending on your level, you might not want to use some of the, examples I'll be using today. So I leave that, of course, up to you. I'm an economics professor, but I'm not Hitch, if you saw that movie with Will Smith. But I think Will Smith needs to reread his lines and get some advice from his character in that movie, the way things are going. And I'm not Dr. Phil, right? I'm not a relationship expert, but I'm hoping to give you not only the economics, but hopefully some practical information that might be helpful not only to your students, but maybe to you. I mean, Valentine's Day is next week, right? Or the 14th, whenever it is. So, in any case, Match.com claims that no other website has led to more marriages. I like to claim that no other professor has broken up more relationships or prevented more marriages than Ninos Malek. And I am proud of that. You know how many years of therapy I have saved my students, future divorce attorney fees? And it's once they learn the concept of opportunity cost, sunk cost, and every quarter, every semester, I teach at a quarter school and semester school, I get at least one email. Dear Professor Malik, thank you so much. I broke up with my girlfriend. I broke up with my boyfriend. You're welcome. There were those students I remember sitting together, and you knew they were dating, looking at each other when I was talking about breaking up. Not us. Well, at the end of that quarter, I get an email from the girlfriend in this story. Dear Professor Malik, thank you for the quarter. It was a great class. By the way, we did end up breaking up. So, in any case, some of your relationship statuses, maybe some of yours. So, not only what I tell my students, maybe some of you today, you'll thank me when you're not with that person who you're with today on Valentine's Day once you understand sunk costs and opportunity cost. So, some quick definitions. We live in a world of scarcity. We cannot have it all. We have to make choices. I like to distinguish between price and cost. I tell my students I never want to hear the F word. And they look at me like, don't say that one either, but free. You might not have to pay money for something. Don't say you got it for free. I prefer you say I got it for a zero price, but there's never, never, never a zero cost. So if you go to a conference and they say, come at no cost to you, no, there is a cost. What they meant was there's no financial fee, there's no price. We'll pay for your hotel, we'll pay for your airplane ticket, whatever. But of course, there's a cost because at the conference, while you're there, you're giving up the time you could have been somewhere else. Zero price, zero cost. Make sure today to know the difference between those two concepts. Opportunity costs, most of you know, but it's the what I call what comes in second place. What's first place? Whatever you're doing now. How do I know this is the best thing you could be doing with your life? Looking at my bald head right now. Sorry about the glare. There's nothing I could do about that one because you're looking at my bald head. Actions speak louder than words, right? Talk is cheap. Revealed preference is the term. So when people say, and I've had this experience. In fact, I shared it with my students today at Starbucks. I use movies and Starbucks. Those are my two favorite examples. Literally, I've been in line and the person in front of me, and I just want a coffee, but the person in front of me, yeah, like a venti half calf, no whip, extra hot, two pump pumpkin spice latte. I've already fallen asleep by the time they've finished their ordering of that drink. And then the poor kid says, yeah, that'll be $5 or $6. And then they say, what a ripoff. And I'm like, or that's crazy. You could tell that they're angry. And I'm like, clearly, with the way you ordered, you have been here before. This is not your first rodeo at Starbucks. The fact that you're here tells me you don't think it's a ripoff unless you like to cause yourself, high blood pressure or anger yourself. Choices tell me what you truly believe, what truly is in your heart. Marginal in economics simply means the one additional or the one extra. And then total utility and marginal utility. So my old professor at George Mason, Walter Williams, shared a story. He had a 40th anniversary dinner. I think it was his 40th anniversary with his wife planned. And at the last minute, a group of his military friends were getting together. These were older gentlemen, and I'm guessing this was becoming a less and less common opportunity. And so they planned a reunion, and it happened to be the same evening of his 40th anniversary dinner. So he asks us, and this is back in 2003 when I went back to school, what do you think I did? And well, some of the students will, oh, well, of course you went with your wife. And if you knew Walter Williams, you already knew that wasn't the answer. And he went with his buddies, and he said that his wife told him, Walter, you love your friends more than your wife. And his response was, well, tonight I do. So what did he mean? What did he not mean? I would never say that to my wife. So sometimes I tell my students, what you learn in this webinar, keep it in your head. Don't say it out loud. Think it, but you might not want to say it. What Williams was saying was, in total, I love you more. But tonight is such an unusual event. At the margin, this is more important to me. So understanding the difference between total utility and marginal utility is important. And I can spend a whole bunch more time on that, but I'm obviously not today. Some of you know this song. I was tired of my lady. We've been together too long, like a worn out recording of a favorite song. This is the law of diminishing marginal utility. Basically, what is he saying? Each extra month, each extra day, each extra second I'm with you, I'm getting bored. So this is an example, a song that I use to introduce the law of diminishing marginal utility. Each extra unit you get less and less. Remember, marginal means that one extra or one additional. So I like to incorporate music, video clips, movie clips, pop culture. So this is an old song, of course, but some of the teachers here might remember this song. Anyway, law of diminishing marginal utility. And I know at the end they reconnect. It's a beautiful, touching story. So what is dating? We hear about AI, AI, AI. Well, I want you to today consider IAIA. People date for various reasons, but if let's assume your goal is marriage, and I know there's some cultures where marriages are arranged, and they actually tend to last longer, but even then, the parents have information about the other family. Well, let's say a typical dating culture, you're in a stage in life where you are interested in getting married. What is dating? It's information acquisition, right? You're learning about the other person, their likes, dislikes. Do you share common values? If that's important to you, religion's important to you, activities are important to you, hobbies, etc. So when you propose, or if you accept the proposal, is the information about the other person perfect? When you get on your knee to propose, you accept the proposal. Is the information perfect? Was my information perfect? Was my wife's information about me perfect? No, right? But it was good enough. Good enough is good enough. And some of you know this graph. If you teach at the college level, you know this. If you teach at the middle school level or high school level, this might be helpful, might not be. But this graph, you notice the downward sloping line, that would be marginal benefit. And let's use this as an example of dating. Each extra month of dating in terms of information, you're getting less and less important information. The first month, you might find out a lot of big things, especially if you don't want to waste time. You want to get those deal breakers out of the way. Each additional month, you're finding out information, but it's not as a big of a deal. Each extra month you're dating, your marginal costs go up and up and up. Assuming you're only dating one person, what's the cost? When you're with this person, you're giving up the opportunity to date someone else. Marginal benefits decline, marginal costs increase. So, what's the quote unquote optimal level of time before you either break up, as in Vince Vaughn and Jennifer Aniston, or you propose? Ryan Reynolds and Sandra Bullock in the movie The Proposal, where the two lines intersect, where the marginal benefit equals the marginal cost. So when you break up, or when you did break up in the past with someone, or you accepted the proposal or proposed, you reached a point where marginal benefits equal the marginal cost. Now, when I got down on my knee and proposed to my wife, did I say the marginal benefits of dating are equal? No. And I tell my students, don't say that. If you're thinking about it, shut up. Don't say that, right? Because then you'll end up single. But I was thinking this graph, MB equals MC. So for some people, it might be at 7 months. For some people, it might be after 3 years. But hopefully, this graph gives you an idea of when you proposed or when you broke up. And of course, if you're dating in your, you know, maybe in your 20s, you might, that optimal time might be longer. If you're dating in your late 90s, you might want to get the show on the road. So, Valentine's Day, right? Love is free. Well, in 2024, the average American spent about $186 on Valentine's Day. So, and if there's a lot of other lessons you can use if you want to talk about inelasticity, elastic and inelastic demand, why flowers and restaurants are more expensive. That's another thing you can incorporate if you teach supply and demand. Love might not cost money, right? Love is free. No, it's not. Nothing is free. Nothing is free. Because if you truly love someone, even if you're not spending money, even if they're not expecting gifts, etc., true love, what are you giving up? Your precious, valuable time, right? Love is sacrifice. Our most precious resource is time. So even love is not free. So that brings me to Jennifer Lopez, the liar. J-Lo, the liar. She's been very successful in her career in terms of business, music, movies, what have you. But why do I call J-Lo the liar? Well, look at the title of that song. Some of you know this song. Love don't cost a thing. Think you got to keep me iced, diamonds. You don't. Think I'm going to spend your cash? I won't. And in all honesty, she doesn't need cash, right? Right? She's very successful financially. But then the lying, the deception begins. Even if you were broke, now, first of all, I don't know how many broke guys have a chance dating J-Lo, but okay. My love don't cost a thing. Now, I'm not an attorney, but if I were and I had to call up some witnesses, I would call these people up. Chris Judd, the guy in the sunglasses, Alex Rodriguez, New York Yankees baseball player, P. Diddy, Mark Anthony, Ben Affleck. And if I were to interview them and ask them or cross-examine them, was J-Lo's love free? This would be Mark Anthony now crying, telling me, no, it wasn't free. That was Alex laughing after. What was I doing? Nothing is free. That was Ben and Jen. Look at those eyes of hope. Young Ben and Jen, Benifer 1.0. After the first time, look at that face of pain. They reunite. Beautiful. And I wish them well. I made this prediction, this webinar last year. This is Ben now. Like, what was I thinking? Ben should have taken my economic. He should be doing what you're doing right now. He would have avoided this heartache. I'm a Dallas Cowboys fan. I know someone's from Dallas. J-Lo is winning. In fact, she's catching up to Tom Brady. I'm so sick and tired, aren't you? Taylor, and Travis trailer, right? The Swifty effect, one of the non-price factors that shifts demand. You notice that because, Taylor is dating Travis Kelce, we're going to buy the jersey. So a lot of people we're buying Travis Kelce jerseys. They have no idea who the Kansas City Chiefs are. They might not even know where Kansas City is. They don't even know Travis Kelce is. But because Taylor is dating him, that's fine. That would be a non-price factor that shifts demand for his jersey. Well, you see them smiling, wonderful. This is my prediction this time with you, or by the time I see you next year. In fact, even before, by next football season, this will be him like, what was I thinking? He'll be on his podcast crying to his brother, and Taylor will still be smiling after she writes a song about their breakup and makes another $1 billion. And then we can just get back to football finally, right? Good luck this Sunday at the Super Bowl. All right. So, how do you know someone likes you? I'll ask my students. How do you know someone likes you, or just likes you as a friend? Well, you notice this here. It says, I'd like to elevate you from a Wednesday to a Saturday night date. So, how do you know by the time of the day and what specific day of the 7 days of the week? How do you know if someone really likes you more than just as a friend or just as a friend, right? What's the signal? Well, knowing what day someone is willing to give up for you might be a signal. So I have what are called Monday, Tuesday coffee lunch, or I did, and so do you in a way, right? Monday, Tuesday coffee lunch people versus Friday, Saturday dinner movie people. Now, what do I mean by that? So I asked my students, and you can do this with your students, are all 7 days of the week equally valuable? And your stereotypical, older high school student, college student will say no. Okay, what do you mean? And they'll say, well, Fridays and Saturdays are like the fun nights, the prime nights. We might say the high value nights. Mondays and Tuesdays, whatever, nothing else going on days. Dinner and a movie, right? That signals if someone's going out to dinner with you or to a movie. Okay, maybe he or she likes you, but coffee, lunch, it's a signal that it's casual. In fact, there's a business called It's Just Lunch, because lunch, or let's just grab a coffee, is a signal that, hey, this is very low key. So if you were to ask someone out for a Friday night or a Saturday night to a movie or to a hockey game, that's potentially a 4 or 5 hour night on a Friday. If the person responds with, oh, I'd love to, and then that 3 letter word that's like a stake in your heart, not that that's ever happened to me, but I'm busy that night, or I have to study, or I have to wake up early, but let's meet up for coffee on Monday. Okay, you have to be reasonable. Maybe something's going on. A few weeks later, you ask that same person out. Hey, would you like to go up to go see this play up in wherever city? For me, I'm in the San Jose area. Would you like to go up to San Francisco to the Orpheum Theater? And afterwards, we can get dinner. Oh, I'd love to, but I have to wake up early tomorrow. But let's meet up for lunch instead. Now, on the one hand, you could say at least the person didn't outright reject you, or maybe they just feel sorry for you and they're just trying to be kind. My point is, if you keep asking someone out for a Friday and Saturday and they respond back with Monday and Tuesday, that is a signal that they don't think you're worth their time. In other words, what I'm saying are Fridays and Saturdays are high opportunity cost nights. Mondays and Tuesdays are low opportunity cost times. If someone really likes you, they're willing to give up a Friday and Saturday for you. Let's be honest, on your cell phone, you rank the people on your phone. And you mean, what are you talking about? There are people, I promise you, and I say this to my students and I'll say it to you. There are people in your cell phone who you have forgotten they're in your cell phone, right? Haven't you ever had that experience when it's your birthday and you get a text message and you don't see a name, you just see a number? Happy birthday. Thank you. And you're hoping that'll be it. And then the person wants to start a conversation. You're like, oh no, who is this? What happened? The time when that person gave you their number, you didn't take your time to create the contact. Now think of the person in Hollywood, or singer who you think, and I even ask my students this, who you think is the hottest person out there. You happen to meet them and they gave you their phone number. You don't think you would have put in your phone? You would have gone to a tattoo parlor and had it put on, right? You would have taken the time. So this is how you know, just by what day of the week, what time of the day, whether someone thinks you're really worth it. And just like that movie, he's not or she's not that into you if they're not willing to give up a Friday and Saturday. There's some people on your cell phone who you will only text. There are other people who you will take the time to call. And let's be honest, sometimes, see, I was a kid. I'm going to be 54 years old in August. I was born August 23rd, 1971. So I remember in the 70s that da 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 da. Remember those phones? Some of you probably don't. But if you do, I mean, you aged a year by the time you dialed the 9 numbers, right? So when I picked up the phone as a kid, I had to pick up the phone on faith. Hello. And then it was that person you didn't want to speak to. And you're like, hey, hey, how are you? Right? Academy Award winning actor Ninos Malek. Now, or for many years, we've had caller ID. And don't tell me you haven't done this. When that person calls, I'll let that go to voicemail. And then what do you do if you're kind enough to acknowledge that person's existence on planet Earth? You won't call them. You'll text message them. So what is texting from an economics perspective? It's economizing on time. Sorry, I missed your call. No, you're not. That's why you're texting. Okay, TTYL. You even TTYL them, right? They're not even worth a complete sentence, right? Other people, you will take the time to call. Some people, you will only talk to them as you're driving to work. Now, what does that mean? I'll kill two birds with one stone. I mean, I'm driving anyway. I might as well talk to this person. Other people, if they called you while you're at home with your family, whatever, you will take the time to pick up the phone because they're worth the opportunity cost to you. So there's a lot of ways that you do these things, or you can figure out how people feel about you. Isn't this great building you up before Valentine's Day? Beyonce. All right. So, what do I mean by maybe we should ignore Beyonce? So, first of all, that famous phrase, don't cry over spilt milk. What does that imply, right? What's done is done. You cannot change the past. You can learn from your mistakes. Don't repeat the same mistakes, but what's done is done. Move forward, move on. So, what does this have to do with Beyonce? Remember her song? Because if you liked it, then you should have put a ring on it. If you liked it, then you should have put a ring on it. And what I've told some of even my own friends, if you like yourself, don't let them put a ring on it. If you like yourself, don't let them put a ring on it, right? So understanding sunk costs will help you break up. A lot of times people have spent so many years in a relationship and they think if I don't marry this person, these past 7 years, 10 years even, have been a waste. And maybe as a nice sensitive friend, you should say, you're right. You did waste 10 years on this person. Don't ruin the next 10 years. The 10 years you spent with this person who's not right for you. Everyone's been telling you this person's not right for you. You know this person's not right for you, but the little devil on the shoulder says, well, if you don't marry this person, it was all for nothing. That's falling for the sunk cost fallacy, right? The 10 years you dated, or the 7 years, or the 3 years, that's gone. Think about the future, not the past. A sunk cost is something that cannot be recovered. I'll give you a non-dating example, a gym example. So let's say you join a gym and there's a fee that's required, a $500 non-refundable fee. Now, full disclosure, I'm stealing this from an old textbook. $500, it's non-refundable. Should that non-refundable fee motivate you to work out more? Now, most of your students would say, well, yeah, I've got it because I got to get my money's worth. And the economics answer is no, because whether you go to the gym every day the rest of the year, the 500 is gone. It's not like you'll get a dollar back every time you go into the gym. If you never go to the gym after that, like most people make their New Year's resolution and then January 2nd, back to Netflix, they're not at the gym, the $500 is gone. It's a sunk cost. The movie example. Maybe you've had this experience. You spend $15, $20 for a movie, right? And don't say it was a ripoff because you voluntarily paid for it, right? You might have ex post regret, but at the moment of the transaction, you did not think it was a ripoff. If you thought $20 was a ripoff, you would have waited until it came out on Netflix or Amazon Prime, right? So you're in the movie, 10 minutes into the movie, you're like, wow, this movie's absolutely horrible. Devil pops up on your shoulder. He's the bad economist. Stay and get your money's worth. The little angel, let's just say he or she's the good economist. What's the angel tell you? Get up and leave because the $15 you spent is gone. Don't lose the next 2.5 hours of your precious, valuable time. Well, the same application is involved in relationships and dating. The only cost that should matter when we make decisions, whether a business perspective, these examples, or in a dating situation, are future opportunity costs. Okay, so why do people date? There's various reasons: companionship, sex. Now, some of these examples, some of these things, if you teach at the high school or middle school, you might not want to share, maybe not age appropriate, college level, what have you. You might be teaching at a Christian school or other religious school, and there's various views, on sex, what have you. So, I'll let you adjust that. But I'm just saying, as a neutral economist, these are reasons why some people just date. I just want to have someone that I can, enjoy my hobbies with. For some people, it's just sex. That's it. For other people, it's a signal to others, meaning, hey, I just want to date someone so the rest of the world knows I was actually able to get to somebody, right? But notice I put in bold marriage. So let's assume marriage is the goal. And we talked about earlier, what is dating in the terms of marriage? It's information acquisition. You're trying to acquire information before you make this decision about marrying this person. There is a cost to being married. Okay. Vince Vaughn, Will Ferrell, Luke Wilson here, the movie Old School. Vince Vaughn, maybe some of you seen it, some of you haven't. Basically, he's implying that, to Will Ferrell's character, if you get married, there's going to be a high opportunity cost. And what he was assuming was that Will Ferrell would be faithful to his new wife, right? So there is an opportunity cost. You're not going to have the time and the flexibility you once had. So I got married later in life. So I was 40 when I got married. And so I have a 9, almost 10-year-old and an 8-year-old. So I'm the old dad. In fact, some of my kids, friends, parents were my former high school students. So in any case, they keep me young. But when I was single, I could pick up and go to Vegas if I wanted to. If I wanted to go to Europe, I could go no problem. Now, I could do that now, but there'd probably be a lot of costs involved if I just picked up and left. All right, see you guys. I'll be back in 2 months. So there's benefits, right? There's costs, like two blades to a scissor. If all you do, though, if all you are doing, if you're in a dating relationship, is focusing on the cost, I won't be able to do this, I won't be able to do that, I can't do this anymore, I won't be able to do this, then maybe that's a hint you shouldn't get married yet, right? Back to Beyonce, pop culture example. So I think you know this song, right? Maybe you don't, but if this is your current boyfriend or girlfriend's theme, if some of you right now are watching this and you're dating someone and this is their theme song for you, that's not good. And I share that with my college students. So what do I mean? Well, this is the song. You must not, I'm not going to even try to sing this, but you must not know about me. You must not know about me. I could have another you in a minute. Remember that? Matter of fact, he'll be here in a minute. What is Beyonce saying to her current boyfriend? My demand for you is very elastic. So if you do teach inelastic and elastic demand, this is a great example. What she's basically saying is, hey, buddy, I got a lot of substitutes for you. In fact, he's right there. What she's saying is her demand for her current boyfriend is very elastic. On the other hand, Fergie, Black Eyed Peas, uh, if this is their song for you right now, then you're okay, at least for now, because remember this song? I wouldn't want to have it any other way. I'm addicted and I just can't get enough, right? I just can't get enough. I just can't get enough. What is Fergie and Will I Am? What are they saying? Basically, the person I'm dating, there aren't any substitutes for you. There's only one you, right? Very inelastic demand. By the way, side note, I don't know why that's a romantic saying. There's only one you. Well, of course there is. That's a genetic fact. There's only one Ninos Malek. Why is that romantic? But in this case, they're implying an inelastic demand. Anyway, just some songs to throw in. Before you date someone new, make sure you've cut the tie, right? You'll have fewer opportunity costs down the road to deal with. Before jumping into another relationship, take some time. It's okay to be single. I tell my college students, it's okay to be. It might actually be better to be home alone watching Netflix than going on a date with that person or being in a relationship with that person. In fact, it might be better staying at home, staring at that wall might give you more utility, more value than being with that person, right? Some people, they're in a relationship. Next thing you know, they're in another relationship. It's like, whoa, wait a little bit, right? I'm not a counselor, what have you, but there are benefits, there are costs, right? And then this Jerry Maguire, remember this? I love you. You complete me. And some experts in this area will tell you that you got to be careful about that, because hopefully it's two whole people coming together, not you trying to find your joy and happiness in another person. That's too much pressure for another person, right? They cannot complete you. So I know that doesn't sound very romantic, and it was a great scene with Cruz and Zellweger, but you might want to be careful about that. This is a book I'm going to recommend at the end. It's called Spouseonomics. I have it here somewhere here behind me in my library. Using Economics to Master Love, Marriage, and Dirty Dishes. And so there's a section I wanted to share from you on incentives, right? Because economics is all about incentives. Praise is more effective than nagging, according to these authors, right? Based on what they research, in giving an incentive for a spouse to do something. Forgiving and not doing what we call in game theory tit for tat. By forgiving, you give the other person a chance to cooperate. Thoughtful gestures can be more effective than material ones. So, something from that book that I wanted to share with you. It's a great book. I'll show you the entire title, the authors at the end of this. So, my question for you: do you discriminate? And some people, no, I would never. Yeah, you do. Be honest. You ever check boxes? When dating websites came out, at the very beginning, no one wanted to admit it, right? Like, what weird person goes online? Now people brag about how they met online. And it's great, because what do these websites do, right? They help us save time. But what are you doing by checking? For some people, it's income level, right? Check. For some people, it's height. Check. For some people, it's I want hair. That's okay. I don't blame you. That's okay. Actually, I almost moved to England. Apparently, women in England like the bald head, but my wife found me. So, hey, lucky her. But what are you doing by checking it? Religion, in all seriousness, if religion's important to you, it might be smart to find someone who shares your, I mean, if you're really like a follower of that religious that religious sect, that particular religion, it might make it a lot in fact, not might, it will make it a lot easier to marry somebody who shares those same views in terms of how you interact with each other, what marriage means to you from your particular religious perspective. If religion doesn't matter to you, then that might be helpful to find someone who religion is not important for. So, what are you doing by checking these things? You're discriminating, right? Check, check. You're filtering, basically, right? um, Philosophy of prenuptial agreement. Some people think it's very disrespectful. Other people think it's fine. A philosophy of divorce. Divorce, no problem, or no, from our religious perspective, unless for a few exceptions, divorce is off the table. Are you willing to move if one of you gets a job to the East Coast, if you live in the West Coast, or vice versa? What about a debt? Are you okay with putting stuff on the credit card? Or nope, no credit at all. We pay everything with cash. These are great conversations. I tell my students, again, I'm not a counselor, but I'm telling you, I've been married, since 2013, so not 20, 30, 40 years, but long enough. And I've seen this in a lot of my friends' marriage, some successful, some sadly, multiple divorces. I'm not judging, but what are some common things? Disagreements on financial philosophy, what happens when parents get older, right? I was very honest with my wife. I'm 10 years older, plus a little over 10 years older than my wife. I was 40, she was 30, and I had older parents than my wife. On top of that, my father was 13 years older than my mom, and I talked about this right at towards the beginning of our relationship. If this continues and we get married, you need to know that culturally, Hispanic, Middle Eastern, I'm not judging anyone who does this, but if I can take care of my parents, I'm going to take care of them. They took care of me, I'm going to take care of them. I'm not going to just put them somewhere unless medically necessary, what have you. Are you okay with that? And she said, no, I respect that. So make sure, and to her credit, my wife was wonderful as my parents and my mom passed away and my dad moved in with us. But these are conversations to have before, not after or during. So the more you can handle these things, the more you can filter these things, economically speaking, less cost later on. What about risk tolerance? Some people are risk seeking, other people are risk averse. So from my own opinion, and people differ, right? There's no right or wrong. But if my wife, now that we're parents, especially, oh, I want to go bungee jumping, I want to I want to go climb this mountain with no rope, I want to be Tom Cruise out there. For some people, that works. but make sure you're on the same page. But if you're like, no, that is selfish. If our kids don't have a mom or a dad now because you want it to be a thrill seeker, I don't believe that's correct. Have those conversations before. So you might want to keep this list: hobbies, lifestyle, debt, what have you, education, if that's important to you. So whatever's important to you, be honest with yourself. All right, what about the economics of websites? So I implied this a little bit earlier. So these dating websites over these past, what, almost now 20 years, they expand the market. If you remember, the stereotype used to be, where did you meet someone? It was either maybe at your religious, place, church, synagogue, what have you. Maybe it was at the club, at the bar. But now you can meet people from all over because of the internet, right? And what's interesting is I talk about institutions in my all my classes, the rules of the game, and how in a market economy, a quote unquote capitalist type of economy, we have entrepreneurs. In fact, there are entrepreneurs because they're allowed to own private property. They're allowed to make a profit, and that incentive to become the next shark on Shark Tank gives me and you the benefit of things like this. If you're single, websites, these people who started these websites, they didn't do it because they loved you. If you remember Adam Smith's famous quote, it is not from the benevolence of the butcher, the brewer, the baker we expect our dinner, but from regard to their own self-interest. So I tell my students, if you think the kid who worked at Starbucks this morning, the 6 a.m. shift, woke up at 4:30, oh, I'm so tired, you know but Ninos is coming today. He's why I go to work. Are you kidding me? Do you think that person woke up for me? No. But it's as if they did. And the beautiful thing is, I got a coffee that I didn't want to take the time to make it home, and that person gets paid, right? They're looking out for their own self-interest. Same with these entrepreneurs who founded these dating sites: Match.com, eHarmony, Silver Singles for people, hey, 50 plus, Farmers Only. So if you're into farming, there we go, right? Tinder, you know that, right? What is this? Oh, discriminate, discriminate, filter, filter. There was a show on Bravo channel a long time ago, about 10, 12 years ago, called The Millionaire Matchmaker, right? Religious, cultural, dating services. And I just saw this. I was watching a rerun of Shark Tank. There was something, it's out of business now, Tabby dating app. And it was an app for people who love cats to get together with other cat lovers. My whole point is, the beautiful thing about a market is there's an incentive to cater to not only the majority, but the minority because of the profit motive. Of course, if we lived in a central planning socialist or communist system, those incentives would not be there. So that's my little way of introducing market economy institutions as well. So be honest with yourself. Think long run, not short run. For all of you who teach economics, if you do not know this book, I highly recommend it. It's called Economics in One Lesson by an author named Henry Hazlitt, Hazlitt, Economics in One Lesson by Hazlitt. He was a journalist, but I would say he probably knew more economics than people with PhDs in economics. He said that bad economists commit two mistakes, two fallacies. They look at the effects of a law, a policy on only one group, not all groups. And the second thing is they look at the effects of a policy only in the short run, not the long run. And I apply this to you, to my students. A good thinker thinks not just in the short run, but also in the long run, right? What's the famous phrase? What I told my students, my college students, this morning. What happens in Vegas and there stays in Vegas. I'm like, oh, no, 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 no. See, once you finish Malik's class, you'll realize that what happens in Vegas might end up coming back to San Jose. What happens in Vegas might affect you 9 days later, 9 weeks later, 9 months later, that spring break. Yeah, spring break. What happens in Cancun might not stay in Cancun. So if you think long run, not just short run. Katy Perry had a famous song 10, 12 years ago, right? She was just on American Idol not that long ago as a judge also. Last Friday night, right? I'm not judging her. She did a lot of things, right? Flamingos are in the pool, Barbie in the barbecue. I want to do this. I keep saying I'm going to do it and I haven't yet, but I tell my students I'm going to write a song and I'm going to send it to our manager, and it's called Next Saturday Morning. And next Saturday morning, there's something called maybe what we call ex post regret. There's a Latin phrase ex ante, EXANTE. Like if you speak Spanish, antes before. When people are doing something, or if somebody texts you or calls you and says, "Do you want to go out?" and you say, "Sounds good," it's because ex ante, before you even go out this weekend, you're expecting it to be worth it in plain English. In economics language, you're expecting the benefit to be greater than the cost. Remember, cost is what else you could be doing instead. But many times we have what's called ex post regret. Like, if I only knew then what I know now. So I asked my students, how many of you ever went on a first date and you came home from that first date thinking to yourself, wow, it would have been better to stare at that wall? How many of you went to your prom? In fact, you watching me today, you remember your prom if you went? If you could go back in time, how many of you would have gone with someone different? You're like, right? Now, when you asked that person to the prom or you said yes, you didn't say yes to purposely harm yourself, right? You were expecting to have a nice time, but you have what's called perhaps ex post regret. Well, thinking about the long run helps us make decisions. So, thinking about Saturday morning might help you with what you do or don't do tonight. And I love this, opposites attract. Yeah, then they drive each other insane. It was the founder of eHarmony who said that think of every commonality as a plus, think of every opposite characteristic as a minus. Now, there's something in economics called comparative advantage, and there's benefits to being somewhat different depending on what the differences are. Each has a comparative advantage, and then when you come together, output increases. I know it's not very romantic. Famous economist Gary Becker applied economics to marriage, for example. But if the opposites are on big things, I want children, I don't. Religion, I'm a different religion. I'm willing to move, I'm never moving. I don't care if you get a job somewhere. Those things could be big deal breakers, right? What about the it'll all work out? Love conquers all, right? The divorce attorney's favorite phrase. No, it doesn't. It's not just about love. You also have to use this, not just, use the brain, not just the heart. There's a right balance, right? The optimum could be described as the right balance of qualities. There's acceptable compromises. That's subjective. I cannot tell you what those are, versus compromising on deal breakers, right? I'm almost done here. If the grass is greener on the other side, right? There's probably more manure there. So being careful about, oh, maybe if I were with that person instead, right? Because if you were with that person, then you would have thought, oh, I wish I was with that person who you're currently with now, perhaps, right? I can change him. I can change her. She'll change. He'll change. He has so much potential. What I tell my students, what I'll tell you, what I've said to people the last couple of years, if you want a project, Home Depot, Saturday mornings, they have a workshop for you. Don't use dating as a project. If the person already from day one has things you just want to, I don't like this, I don't like this, I don't like this, hint, maybe they're not the one, right? So Home Depot and Lowe's might be your best bet. Don't waste your most precious resource, time. Be honest with what you want. Be a good economic thinker. There's benefits, but there's also costs. Think about trade-offs, not just short run, but also long run. Remember my Vegas teaching there. Date someone who already has the characteristics, fewer costs down the road. And make sure the person you're interested in already is doing what you want. If religious activity is important to you, or some recreational activity, going to the gym is important to you, make sure they're doing it already and that they would be doing that anyway, that they're not going to just do it for you. Well, if that's important to you, you want to make sure that's something they are doing already for themselves. So something I've seen that makes life a little bit easier. And I'll end with this slide, my story. So I told you I was never married, 40 years old. Everyone was trying to set me up. And I was an only kid. So my mom, in Spanish, when are you going to get married? I'm like, it's okay. It's okay. You're too picky. I'm like, well, yeah, I like myself. Of course. I am picky. Sure. I mean, there's an optimal level of pickiness, right? If you're too picky, you'll be single forever. But there's an optimal level. So, anyways, long story short, um, one of my former high school students, he was a CHP officer off duty. He's like, "Hey, Ninos, you want to get together for coffee?" I said, "Yeah, sure." He proceeds to tell me that one of his classmates And I was 40, so this guy was about 29 at the time. This was the class of '01, so they're like 43 now. Proceeds to tell me that his classmate told him to tell me that she thought her sister and I would be a good match. And I'm like, oh my God, what is this, elementary school, right? Well, I'll tell you, this former student, she's now my sister-in-law, and she and her sister and I did get married. But what I did was I told my now sister-in-law, you know what? Because I valued my time and I valued this person who I'd never met time, I said, you know what? I found out some things about her. And then I told this CHP officer, I said, tell my now sister-in-law, tell her my age, tell her all that, and tell her also to go to www.ninosmalek.com. I used to have a website. On that website was my bald head. And I have what I call the Paul Walker Vin Diesel analogy. If my now wife wanted the Paul Walker, who sadly passed away a few years ago, the blonde, wavy hair, clearly not me. And that's okay. She would have seen that page. She would have clicked the page off, and we wouldn't have wasted time. If she liked the bald guy, maybe there was a shot. And there was other information there, my age, this and this, background. Why did I do that in all seriousness? To economize on time. So if time is valuable to you, getting stuff out of the way sooner than later is, I think, beneficial. And here are some resources, and this is it. So you might want to copy these down, or these might be made available to you. Some recommended books, a little bit more technical for those of you especially teach high school or college for sure. And this is a nice activity, a paper that my co-author and friend of mine, Charity Joy, and I wrote um, for the Journal of Private Enterprise back in fall of 2020, that has some great teaching resources, and you can look that up online. All right. Thank you for your attention. And if there are any questions, I'll do my best.
Thank you, Ninos. Just to everybody, I'll make sure to send a follow-up email after this webinar with his slides so that you can have access to these like teaching resources and the recommended books as well. And now let's get started with this Q&A. So instead of entering your questions in the chat, if you could please use the Q&A feature that's in Zoom. It should be at the bottom of your screen. It just says Q&A. And you should be able to submit any questions that you have. And once a question is submitted, there's like a little thumbs up button that you can upvote it. And if there is a lot of questions, then I will be looking at the upvotes. So if you like a question more than other, please give it a thumbs up. Looks like we're getting some questions in. So I'll just start with this first one. So Ninos, it says, what would you say is the best activities to help students practice these wonderful concepts?
By activities, so a little bit more clarification. So there are a lot of activities that FTE has, other, econ ed sources that teach opportunity costs, sunk costs. I would say if you want to bring this into the classroom, right? Valentine's Day is coming up. It's a fun way to kind of catch students' attention. I would say make sure they are very solid on these few basic concepts. What opportunity cost is, what does sunk costs mean? And the Henry has, I think, long run, not short run. Activities, there's some songs that I mentioned. You might find some other songs. You might even be able to figure out some songs that discuss this, love and love is free, what have you. That's a great way to catch their attention. But again, it depends what age you're talking about. At the college level, some students um, will ask me some more detailed questions like, and I'm not a relationship counselor, and I don't even go there in the classroom, right? But um, I can't think of any, like, I don't have like a dating economics activity book. Like, here's some lesson plans. But if you go to that paper here, what we do have is some great suggestions for movies, movie clips that you can use, music clips that you can use to help you with teaching concepts of economics through this relationship and dating example. So I would say, honestly, I'm not just saying because we wrote this, but we wrote this with the teacher in mind. It's an econ ed journal. It's not some technical game theoretic paper. It's a very accessible journal article.
Awesome, thank you. Okay, our next question is from Mike. He asks, do you have any statistics on the economic impact of these dating sites and how big is this industry?
Off the top of my head, no. But this second book, especially on online dating, it's a long title, right? Everything I ever needed to know about economics, I learned from online dating. He's a Stanford Business School professor, Paul Oyer. He has that. And I remember, I don't know if you know the name John Stossel. Those of you who teach, it's a great website, by the way, Stossel in the Classroom. He interviewed Steve Levitt, one of the co-authors of the famous book Freakonomics. And Levitt has written a paper on online dating and actually how I forgot if it was men and women or just women discriminate based on income. And so when people say, I don't date for the money, well, when you look at what people say and what people actually do reveal preference, income is a big factor. So if you type in Stephen Levitt, uh, dating and income, that might be a paper. It's a dated paper. It's probably now 12, 15 years old, but that might at least get you started. So that's the best I can tell you off the top of my head.
Okay, we have a question from Amy. She said, can you drop the name of that book again about everything being economics? I'm not sure what book that is.
Oh, well, the only books I've mentioned are these three. Oh, the other book I mentioned, I don't know if this was what Amy's referring to, Economics in One Lesson. Henry Hazlitt, Hazlitt, Henry Hazlitt, Economics in One Lesson. There's various covers of that book. So if you go on Amazon, you might see a gray edition, an orange edition. You might even be able to find notice I'm not going to say free, a zero price edition online. There's a PDF version of it out there. Economics in One Lesson. No math, no graphs, very accessible book. I used it when I taught regular econ. I taught regular econ, I taught AP, and now college. I used it at all levels.
Awesome. Lisa and I were actually talking earlier, and we were thinking about how interesting of a topic economics of dating is. So we're just wondering, like, how did you come up with this like topic to even speak about? Like, how did it start?
I love going to the movies, as I mentioned, and there's so many of like he's not into, she's not into you. If you. Some of you maybe saw that. Lot of big actors in there. I mean, I love economics. I mean, the more you see, the more you study the econ, the more you learn about it. You just see econ. I tell my students, my goal is that when you're driving in your car and you hear that song or you're listening in your earphone, you'll think of my class. Right, that might have just ruined everything for you, but you're going to think of econ because literally it's everywhere. And you're on that date, Malik will be with you in spirit because you're going to be thinking opportunity costs, what have you. Don't say it, right? So I think it's just through seeing my friends, relationships, my own experiences. How can I tie this? And I love teaching. I love, sharing economics in a very accessible way. And I thought, what great way to hook people in because especially a lot of college students dating relationships, that's going to catch their attention. So even the students who are doing this, all of a sudden you're talking about boyfriends and girlfriends, they do this. Now, some students I've had the experience, like, and you have too. Some of them, they're really excited. Other students, when I talk about this dating stuff, they look at me like, not us. We're never going to break up. Yeah. Those are the students who together forever. I used to teach seniors. I'm like, together forever, huh? Where are you going to school next year? I'm going to ASU. You're going to ASU. Oh, I've been ASU. Are you going? Where are you going? I'm going to USC. And you're going to be together forever, little boyfriend and girlfriend. Day one of ASU and USC, that relationship together forever ended because once they're on the campus of ASU and USC, what do they think? Opportunity cost opportunity. So I try to use as many examples to teach these concepts. So I don't have the exact year, but I've been talking about this stuff. Oh gosh, I've been teaching almost 26 years now. I would say at least 15 or so. And I've been doing these programs for the past 5, 6, 7 years.
Awesome, thank you. It looks like we don't have any more questions in the chat, but while I still have everybody, I just want to share some of our upcoming programs that we're having. If this is your first FTE program, that is so amazing, and we put on so many other awesome programs just like this one. We have a few other webinars in the spring coming up. We just opened our spring applications, so nothing is closed. I just put a link in the chat to our upcoming programs so you can view everything that we are offering for the winter and the spring. Um, so please check that out there. And again, you will be receiving an email from me with everything that Nino's shared, including the books and the teacher resources. And we'll also be sending out a little evaluation that you all can fill out. These evaluations are really helpful because we really do appreciate any feedback that you have on the programs. If you loved it, if you didn't love it, any feedback is very useful. So, I mean, with that, I think we can end this webinar. Ninos, do you have any last words or advice
No,
you want to share?
no, I see some of the comments that teacher, a lot of Assyrian students from Toronto. I love going to Canada, so yay Toronto. And someone put, I'm 43, you're giving me hope. There's always hope. But remember, better to be single sometimes. So it all works out, right? There's a right time for everything. No, I want to thank you all. Keep doing what you're doing. Take advantage of a lot of these FTE resources online and programs. Great way to network and learn more. Even if you know the econ, it's great to pick up some hopefully additional examples or teaching tips. So, but thank you for your time. I appreciate it, right? It wasn't a free webinar. You gave up your time, so I appreciate it.